Retail interviews are one of those experiences that sound simple until you're actually sitting in one. You walk in thinking it's just a chat about your experience, and then you walk out thinking if you've accidentally auditioned for a reality show. Because retail interviews aren't just about what you say, it's how you look, how you stand, and whether you can actually smile when somebody asks, describe a time you dealt with a difficult customer. So today we're talking about what interviews actually look like, not the scripted nonsense, but the real world checklist that decides whether you get the job or not. Before the first question, before the handshake, before you even sit down, it's the moment the interviewer has spotted you, either on the CCTV or in store, and they can spot you a mile off. They're scanning you like a barcode. They're reading your posture, your expression, whether you've introduced yourself to the team, your outfit, your energy. And they're asking themselves, can this person survive a day without crying? Retail interviewers aren't looking for perfection. They're looking for stability. They're looking for somebody who won't implode when the queue is out the door and the card machine has just died. So the first rule, match the vibe of the shop. If the store is calm and minimalist, don't show up dressed like a disco ball. If it's loud, energetic, outgoing, don't dress like you're attending a funeral. Retail is about adaptability, and your interview is the first test. So let's talk about how to dress for a retail interview. You're often told to dress smart, but nobody defines really what that is. Smart compared to what? Is it what smart compared to the customers? Is it smart compared to the rest of the team? Well, they're wearing uniform. So smart compared to what? Here's the truth. Retail interviewers, they're not judging fashion sense. They're judging what effort you've put in. If it looks like you've tried, then you're halfway there. If it looks like you've literally rolled out of bed, you may as well be halfway out the door. But there's a catch. If you dress too formally, you look like you're applying for head office. If you dress too casually, well, you could be just a customer. So what's the sweet spot? Clean, simple, neutral. Something that says, I care, but I'm not trying to overthrow the management team. And if you're going to wear a shirt, please iron it. Wrinkles are not a personality trait. So that first impression, the first 30 seconds of a retail interview, they're everything. You walk in, smile, say hello. Introduce yourself to a few members of the team. Just make yourself comfortable. Because the interviewer is already deciding if you'll fit in with the team. They're not analysing your CV. They're not analysing your energy. Do you look approachable? Do you look like you'd be able to help a customer, even if you're not on the clock? Do you look like you'd be able to survive Black Friday without committing a crime? So retail interviews are trained to spot attitude. They can tell if you're genuine, fake, nervous, or secretly just plotting your escape. So the trick is simple. Be calm, be polite, be approachable, and most of all, be human. You don't need to be overly cheerful. Just show that you can handle chaos without losing your soul. So it gets to the questions. These are the questions that don't matter. Every retail interview has them. It's the same recycled questions. Tell me about yourself. Describe a time you worked in the team. What would you do if a customer complained? You could hear these in your sleep and answer them. And honestly, the interviewer isn't even listening. They're not listening to the story. They care, about what your tone is like. They're listening for confidence, not content. They want to see if you can talk without panicking. They want to know if you can stay composed when somebody's shouting about a 10% discount. They want you to be entertaining but without being a clown. So don't overthink it. Keep your answers short, clear, and slightly self-aware. So for example, once a customer complained about a missing receipt. I stayed calm, found a solution, and learned that people will fight harder for a £1 refund than world peace. That's it. You've shown composure, humour, and realism, all in one line. If you show that you understand what retail is like without being too on a downward spiral or too much dark humour, that can really put your foot in the door. And what they're really looking for, and here's the secret nobody tells you, retail interviewers aren't looking for the perfect employee, anything but. They're looking for somebody who won't make the life harder. They want reliability. They want somebody who will actually show up. They want somebody who doesn't vanish mid-shift just because Mercury's in the retrograde. They're also looking for emotional intelligence, the ability to read a situation and respond without drama. Somebody, even if they're not going for management, they can take control, be reliable, and be part of the team. If they can show that they're calm under pressure, adaptable, and vaguely sane, you're already half above the rest of the applicants. So retail interviews are 50% words, 50% body language. Sit up straight, but not stiff. Smile, but not constantly. Make eye contact, but don't stare like you're trying to hypnotise them. Retail interviewers notice everything. If you fidget, they'll assume that you panic at the till. If you cross your arms, they'll assume that you just hate teamwork and hate the whole world. If you lean too far forward, they'll assume you're about to sell them something. So just relax. You're not auditioning for a TED talk. You're proving that you basically can exist in a store without causing chaos and effectively making the manager's life easier. And that's what you're there for. Sometimes interviews will test your subtlety. They'll ask you what you think of the store's uniform or brand aesthetic, or if you've seen the latest TV advert. This isn't a trick question, it's just a vibe check. They want to know if you understand the brand's personality. If you say, oh, I really like it, it's clean and approachable, you sound thoughtful. If you say, I don't really notice, I haven't seen it, you sound like you haven't been inside the store once in your life, and yet you've just told me that you're a regular customer. Retail is visual. Interviewers want somebody who notice details, because details sell. And the moment that you lose them, there's always one moment in the interview where you feel the energy drop. Maybe you've rambled. Maybe you've said something weird. Maybe you accidentally implied that you hate customers and hate retail. Don't panic, just recover it with humour. Retail interviewers appreciate honesty. If you slip up, laugh it off and move on. So an example would be, sorry, that's any darker than I meant. I promise I don't actually hate customers, just the ones that ask you if you're open while you're standing there inside. That kind of self-aware humour can reset the tone instantly. And the final part of the interview, the biggest part of the interview, is the final impression. Because that interviewer has probably seen 10 other people that day. When they ask, do you have any questions? Don't just say no. Ask something small but smart. Like, what's the team dynamic like? Or what's the busiest time of year for you? Don't ask, what do you really like about this job? Because that is just the generic question, and you get sick of hearing it 10 times during the day. It can show interest without desperation. Then thank them genuinely, not robotically. Smile, offer to shake hands, and leave like you've already got the job. Because at the end of the day, confidence sells. And in retail, funnily enough, it's about selling, even yourself. So retail interviews aren't about perfection. Please remember that. They're about proving you can survive chaos with grace. Interviewers don't want the most qualified person. They want the most stable person and somebody who can make their lives easier.